Hello. This is Antje from Byte Shuffle. Thank you for always watching our videos. This time, I've put together a guide on how to navigate and sideboard against 4-color control when using the painter archetype. Here is the deck list we will be using this time. Since I'm likely to get mana screwed, I'll mulligan. I'll put Hedge Maze on the bottom. I'll assess the pacing and positioning relative to my opponent. I took out Narset, Parter of Veils. The Surveil effect sends the card to the graveyard. Teferi, Time Reveler activated its -3 ability. Teferi, Time Reveler activated its 1 ability. Teferi, Time Reveler activated its 1 ability. I'll throw a jab with Veil of Summer. I'm going all in. From here. As for when to stop with Ad Nauseam, with Beseech the Mirror, if you can generate 4 mana while building up Storm and have at least 1 permanent to pay the bargain cost, you can secure the win. Before sideboarding, I'd like to review the list we used. First, the conclusion. I will explain it step by step. Here are the cards from 4-color control that are relevant to ANT. First, there are graveyard hate cards like Grafdigger's Cage, Ghost Vacuum, and Surgical Extraction. To counter the effect that stops triggered abilities, such as Consign to Memory, I'll include the Painter package. For sideboarding, I'll remove the core cards mentioned in the deck guide video. Next, against cards like Narset, Parter of Veils, Teferi, Time Reveler, Null Rod, and Deafening Silence, I'll include Abrupt Decay to deal with them. For dealing with permanents, it's best to have around 3 answers, including the Boseiju, who endures already in the main deck. Since 4-color control sometimes includes multiple copies of Mystic Sanctuary, you need to be cautious when using Boseiju who endures. Next, let's talk about Veil of Summer. For Painter Servant, it's better to choose a color other than blue or black to avoid enabling the opponent's Veil of Summer. However, since the opponent usually runs no more than 2 copies of Veil of Summer, if your main priority is avoiding removal, you may choose to set Painter's Servant to black. Next, since the opponent runs the Life from the Loam and Wasteland package, I'll include a Forest. Since the opponent is playing a blue control deck and will have islands on the battlefield, I'll include Carpet of Flowers. Since my game plan involves developing enough lands before making a move, I'll remove all copies of Lotus Petal. If I win with the Painter combo and my opponent brings in specific hate cards against Painter's Servant, then, instead of relying on the Painter package, it's better to shift to the Storm plan to secure the win in these situations. If I anticipate that my opponent is running multiple copies of Teferi, Time Reveler, since Beseech the Mirror becomes harder to utilize effectively, adjusting the game plan like this might be a good option. Before playing Game 3 in a tabletop match, checking how many cards your opponent has sideboard can help you adjust your strategy more effectively. Since I'm likely to get mana screwed, I'll mulligan. Since I'm aiming for a long game, I'll put Lion's Eye Diamond on the bottom. In a typical ANT build, I would likely bottom Boseiju, who endures instead. The Surveil effect sends the card to the graveyard. I'll search for disruption cards. I stacked Lion's Eye Diamond, Thoughtseize, and Brainstorm in that order, then drew a card. I'll search for mana acceleration. I stacked Past in Flames first, followed by Grindstone. Based on my hand, I can likely go for the Ad Nauseam route, so I decided to tuck Grindstone back into the deck for now. I'll use Hand Disruption to scout ahead. I took out Force of Will. I'll use hand disruption to scout ahead. I took out consign to memory. Life from the Loam targeted 2 flooded strands and 1 misty rainforest. My opponent cast Ponder, chose not to shuffle, and drew a card. I'm going all in. From here, I'll generate additional mana needed for the combo. Since my mana has developed, I'll scout ahead with hand disruption. I took out Force of Negation. I'll recover the resources I spent from Ad Nauseam. Since my goal is to increase my hand size, I'll stop at a reasonable point. Mystic Sanctuary targeted Force of Negation. I'll search for a land that produces black mana. I stacked Carpet of Flowers, Misty Rainforest, and Polluted Delta in that order and drew a card, but in hindsight, I should have added Carpet of Flowers to my hand instead. I'll use hand disruption to scout ahead. Once Painter's Servant is on the battlefield, it nullifies the opponent's consign to memory ability that counters colorless spells. Since I have multiple copies in hand, I'll go ahead and cast it. My opponent has Veil of Summer, but in case they kept removal, I want to grant hexproof with my own Veil of Summer, so I chose black for Painter's Servant. I'll search for disruption cards. I stacked 2 copies of Painter's Servant. I'll generate additional mana needed for the combo. I'll respond with Veil of Summer. I'll search for Grindstone. I went straight for the Painter combo, but in hindsight, it would have been better to activate Grindstone during my opponent's upkeep. Lastly, I have an announcement. I'm posting the concepts behind the images used in my videos, as well as small flavor-inspired stories, in the YouTube community section. Additionally, I'm selling merch for the channel through the link in the description. If you're interested, be sure to check it out. Thank you for watching up to this point. I apologize for the many play mistakes. I hope to improve at MTG together with everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel and giving it a thumbs up. See you next time. This is Antya.